The 1981 D Washington quarter is a United States 25-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint and identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse, near the ribbon of George Washington's hair. It belongs to the classic Washington quarter series that used the traditional eagle reverse before the major redesigns of the late 1990s. The 1981 D issue had a substantial mintage of 575,722,833 coins, meaning that the date itself is not considered rare. However, individual examples can become more desirable when they are found in exceptional uncirculated condition, have strong eye appeal, or display a genuine mint error or recognized variety. The obverse of the 1981 D Washington quarter features a left-facing portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The design was created by John Flanagan, whose Washington portrait became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. The word liberty appears above Washington, while in God we trust is positioned to the left of the portrait. The date 1981 appears below Washington. The Denver Mint's D mint mark is located to the right of Washington's hair ribbon. These details are important for identification because they distinguish the 1981 D issue from the 1981 P Philadelphia quarter and the 1981 S proof quarter. The reverse displays the familiar American eagle with its wings spread wide. The eagle holds a bundle of arrows in its talons, while an olive branch appears below the bird. Around the design are the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURIBUS UNUM, and quarter dollar. The reverse design gives the coin its classic patriotic appearance and was used throughout the Washington quarter series during this period. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters often enjoy studying differences in strike quality, surface preservation, and die characteristics among coins carrying the same basic design. The 1981 D quarter has a diameter of approximately 24.3 millimeters and a standard weight of 5.67 grams. Its edge is reeded, meaning that the edge contains numerous small grooves. The coin is made from a copper-nickel clad composition, with an outer layer containing approximately 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a copper center. This is the standard clad composition associated with circulating Washington quarters of this period. The 1981 D quarter was produced in very large quantities for everyday commerce. Its mintage of 575,722,833 pieces means that millions of examples entered circulation across the United States. Because of this large production figure, an ordinary circulated 1981 D quarter generally does not command a large premium simply because of its date. Current collector references show relatively modest values for circulated examples, while better preserved uncirculated examples can bring higher prices depending on their grade and eye appeal. Condition is therefore one of the most important factors when determining the potential value of a 1981 D Washington quarter. A heavily circulated coin may show wear on Washington's hair, cheek, jaw, and other raised areas. The eagle and its feathers on the reverse may also lose detail through circulation. Scratches, dents, discoloration, and contact marks can further reduce the coin's appearance. By contrast, an uncirculated coin that retains its original mint luster and has very few contact marks can be considerably more attractive to collectors. The difference between an ordinary uncirculated coin and an extremely high-grade uncirculated coin can be significant. Modern clad quarters were produced in enormous numbers, but many received contact marks while being transported, stored, counted, and distributed. Coins can strike against one another inside mint bags or other containers, leaving small marks on otherwise brilliant surfaces. For this reason, collectors searching for high-grade 1981 D quarters may examine many examples before finding one with exceptionally clean surfaces. Professional grading can become important when a 1981D quarter appears to be in unusually high condition. Grading companies assign numerical grades based on the preservation and quality of a coin. High-grade certified examples can attract collectors who are trying to build registry sets or complete collections of Washington quarters in superior condition. PCGS records an auction result of $375 for an MS-67 example, demonstrating that an exceptionally graded specimen can be worth far more than an ordinary circulated quarter. NGC's current guide also demonstrates how strongly condition can influence the value of this coin. Its July 2026 information list circulated 1981D quarters in a relatively low-value range, while high-grade uncirculated examples can reach considerably higher guide values. NGC lists values rising into the hundreds for certain high grades, although guide values are not guarantees of what an individual coin will actually sell for. Actual market prices depend on certification, grade, eye appeal, rarity at that grade, auction competition, and buyer demand. The D mint mark is one of the easiest ways to identify this particular issue. On a 1981D quarter, the letter D appears on the obverse near Washington's hair ribbon. Collectors should make sure that the apparent mint mark is actually part of the coin and not a scratch, stain, or damage. Since the mint mark is small, photographs with good lighting and sufficient magnification can be useful when examining a coin. The 1981D quarter can also be interesting from an error coin perspective. Collectors search these coins for genuine mint-made errors such as major off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchets, die cracks, and other recognized abnormalities. However, not every unusual-looking quarter is an error. Damage caused after the coin left the mint, including scratches, dents, bending, grinding, chemical exposure, or machine damage, generally does not have the same collector value as a genuine mint error. One of the most common mistakes made by beginning collectors is assuming that a coin becomes valuable simply because it is several decades old. The 1981D quarter is more than 4 decades old, but age alone does not make it rare. Its large mintage means that many examples survived. The more important questions are whether the coin is unusually well preserved, whether it contains a recognized variety, whether it has a genuine mint error, and whether collectors currently have strong demand for that particular example. The coin's EPLURIBUS UNUM inscription is another interesting part of its history. The Latin phrase is commonly translated as out of many, one. It represents the idea of unity and has appeared on United States coinage for centuries. Along with In God We Trust and Liberty, the phrase gives the quarter a combination of historical, national, and symbolic significance. The 1981D quarter can also be compared with the 1981P Washington quarter. The Philadelphia issue had a mintage of 601,716,000, while Denver produced 575,722,833 examples. Both were regular circulation coins with the same basic specification and classic Washington and Eagle design, but their mint marks identify the facilities where they were struck. The 1981S issue was a proof coin with a much smaller production figure and was made for collectors rather than normal circulation. Another important feature is the coin's clad construction. Unlike older Washington quarters dated 1964 and earlier, which were struck in 90% silver, the 1981D quarter is a copper-nickel clad coin. Therefore, an ordinary 1981D quarter should not be valued as a silver quarter. Collectors sometimes confuse older silver Washington quarters with later clad examples, so checking the date and composition is important when searching through inherited collections, old jars, rolls of coins, or accumulated change. When examining a 1981D quarter, collectors should inspect the obverse under good lighting. Look closely at Washington's hair, cheek, jaw, lettering, date, and mint mark. On the reverse, inspect the eagle's feathers, arrows, olive branch, lettering, and rim. The fields between the design elements should also be examined for unusual marks or patterns. A strong, original-looking coin with attractive luster and minimal contact marks may be considerably more interesting than a heavily worn example. The edge should also be inspected carefully. The normal 1981D quarter has a reeded edge. Any unusual edge condition should be investigated before assuming that it is an error. Some edge damage can occur through circulation or mechanical processes after the coin leaves the mint. A genuine mint error is normally characterized by evidence that the unusual feature was created during the manufacturing process. Cleaning is another issue that collectors should take seriously. A person may think that polishing an old quarter will make it look more valuable, but harsh cleaning can leave scratches and unnatural surfaces. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces and natural mint luster. If a 1981D quarter appears especially nice, it is usually better to leave it untouched rather than attempting to make it brighter through polishing or chemicals. The 1981D Washington quarter is also part of an important transitional period in American quarter history. The traditional Washington design continued for many years, and the classic eagle reverse remained on circulating quarters until the end of the 1990s. Beginning in 1999, the United States introduced the 50-state quarters program, bringing a completely different reverse design to American circulating quarters. The 1981D, therefore, represents an earlier generation of the Washington quarter that collectors can place within the broader history of U.S. coinage. For someone finding a 1981D quarter in pocket change or an old collection, the best strategy is to inspect it carefully rather than immediately assuming it is either extremely valuable or completely ordinary. First, confirm the date and D mint mark. Next, determine whether the coin is circulated or uncirculated. Then look for unusual errors, strong strike characteristics, attractive surfaces, and minimal contact marks. If the coin appears to be exceptionally high grade or has a potentially significant mint error, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. The 1981D Washington quarter is an excellent example of how a common U.S. coin can still be fascinating to study. Its large mintage makes ordinary examples readily available, but condition can create substantial differences in collector interest. A worn quarter may be worth little more than its face value, while an exceptional certified specimen can bring much more. This difference is one of the reasons coin collecting is not simply about finding old dates. It is about understanding rarity, condition, production, varieties, errors, history, and market demand. In conclusion, the 1981D Washington quarter is a classic American clad quarter struck at the Denver Mint. It has a face value of 25 cents, a diameter of about 24.3 millimeters, a weight of 5.67 grams, a reeded edge, and copper-nickel clad construction. It was designed by John Flanagan and carries George Washington on the obverse and an American eagle on the reverse. With a mintage of 575,722,833, the coin is not rare in ordinary circulated condition, but high-grade examples and genuine mint errors can be much more desirable. For collectors, the most important factors are the coin's exact condition, originality, strike quality, possible varieties or errors, and professional grade. The 1981D quarter may look like an ordinary piece of pocket change, but a carefully preserved example can provide an interesting glimpse into American coin production during the early 1980s. The 1981D Washington quarter is particularly interesting because it belongs to a period when the United States was producing enormous quantities of clad coins for everyday commerce. By 1981, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for almost 50 years, and the familiar design had become one of the most recognizable images on American money. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters during the year, helping supply banks, businesses, vending machines, and the general public with enough 25-cent pieces for everyday transactions. Because these coins were intended for circulation rather than primarily for collectors, many examples were handled heavily and developed wear and contact marks. The Denver Mint played an important role in United States coin production during this period. Coins produced there carry the distinctive D Mint mark, allowing collectors to identify their origin. The 1981 D quarter can therefore be separated from the Philadelphia and San Francisco issues simply by examining the mint mark. This small letter is an important part of the coin's identity. Collectors who build complete date-10 mint collections often search specifically for the D, P, and S issues from individual years. The portrait of George Washington on the obverse represents one of the most enduring images in American numismatics. Washington's contribution to the founding of the United States made him a natural choice for a major circulating denomination. The quarter's design gives collectors a direct connection to American history while also representing the everyday financial life of the country. Millions of people have used Washington quarters for purchases, transportation, vending machines, parking meters, and countless other transactions. The reverse eagle is equally important from a historical and artistic perspective. The bald eagle has long served as a national symbol of the United States, and its appearance on the Washington quarter reinforces the patriotic character of the coin. The eagle's wings, arrows, and olive branch represent strength and peace, while the surrounding inscriptions identify the nation and denomination. The reverse is therefore more than a decorative image. It forms part of the visual language used by the United States Mint to represent the country. The large number of 1981 D quarters produced does not mean that every surviving example is identical in quality. Coins can vary significantly in appearance depending on how they were struck and how they were handled afterward. Some may have excellent luster and sharp details, while others can have dull surfaces, scratches, stains, or heavy wear. Collectors often spend considerable time comparing coins that have the same date and mint mark because subtle differences in preservation can influence desirability. One of the most valuable skills for a coin collector is learning how to recognize wear versus damage. Natural circulation wear gradually removes detail from raised portions of a coin. Damage, on the other hand, can appear as isolated scratches, dents, gouges, or unusual marks. A coin with a strange mark is not automatically an error. Genuine errors originate during the manufacturing process, while post-mint damage happens after the coin has already entered circulation. Understanding this distinction prevents many valuation mistakes. The rims of the 1981 D quarter should also receive attention. A normal coin should have a properly formed circular rim around both sides. Significant irregularities in the rim can sometimes be associated with minting problems, although many damaged rims are simply the result of the coin being struck, dropped, squeezed, or otherwise damaged after leaving the mint. Major mint-made abnormalities are generally more desirable than ordinary circulation damage, particularly when they can be authenticated. Another feature collectors may study is the relationship between the lettering and the rim. On a normally struck quarter, the design should be properly positioned within the boundaries of the planchet. A major shift in the design toward one side can indicate an off-center strike. Small variations in positioning may not be especially valuable, while dramatic off-center strikes can attract significant attention. The exact amount of displacement and whether the date remains visible can affect collector interest. The planchet itself is another important part of the minting process. Before a quarter becomes a finished coin, metal is prepared into blanks and then transformed into planchets with the proper shape and dimensions. These planchets are fed into coin presses, where dies strike the designs onto them. Problems occurring at different stages can produce different types of errors. This is why knowledgeable error collectors examine the entire coin rather than focusing on only one unusual mark. The 1981D quarter can also be useful for teaching new collectors about coin grading. Grades generally describe the amount of wear and preservation visible on a coin. Circulated grades range through different levels of wear, while uncirculated coins are graded according to their condition and remaining mint characteristics. Small contact marks become increasingly important at higher grades because even minor imperfections can prevent an otherwise beautiful coin from reaching the top levels. High-grade clad quarters can be surprisingly difficult to find. Although hundreds of millions were produced, they were not all preserved carefully. Most were thrown into bags, transported, counted, and placed into circulation. Coins repeatedly came into contact with one another, creating marks and abrasions. As a result, collectors searching for extremely high-grade examples may need to examine a large quantity of ordinary coins before finding a truly exceptional specimen. The luster of an uncirculated 1981D quarter can also provide useful information. Original mint luster results from the way metal flows across the surface when the coin is struck. A coin with strong original luster may have greater visual appeal than one that has been cleaned or chemically altered. However, luster alone does not determine value. Collectors consider the overall combination of strike, surfaces, marks, tunning, eye appeal, and grade. Tunning can appear on copper-nickel clad coins as they age. Some examples may develop gray, brown, golden, or other shades, depending on their storage environment and exposure to different substances. Natural tunning can sometimes be attractive to collectors, but artificial coloring or chemical treatment can reduce desirability. Because appearance can be misleading, experienced collectors examine the surfaces carefully and compare them with known examples. The 1981D quarter is also an excellent coin for studying the economics of modern coin collecting. Because the denomination is common, collectors generally do not purchase ordinary examples for large amounts of money. Instead, the market focuses on exceptional pieces. A coin can therefore have a very low value in one condition and a much higher value in another. This is a recurring principle throughout numismatics. Scarcity is often related not simply to the date, but to the availability of coins in a particular condition. Collectors should be careful with online claims that describe ordinary 1981D quarters as extremely valuable. Internet videos and social media posts sometimes show very high prices without explaining that the example was professionally graded, had an unusual error, or represented an exceptional auction result. A high auction price for one coin does not mean every coin with the same date and mint mark is worth the same amount. The exact characteristics of the individual coin must always be considered. If a collector believes a 1981D quarter may contain a major error, clear photographs can be helpful. Images should show the entire obverse and reverse, along with close-up views of the suspected abnormality and edge. Good lighting is important because shadows can make ordinary features appear unusual. Comparing the suspected error with normal examples of the same date can also help identify whether the difference is genuinely unusual. Professional authentication can be especially useful when a potentially significant error or exceptionally high grade is involved. A reputable grading service can authenticate the coin, assign a numerical grade, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. Certification does not guarantee a particular selling price, but it can provide buyers and sellers with a standardized assessment of the coin's condition and authenticity. The 1981D Washington quarter also has educational value because it demonstrates the difference between face value and collector value. Its official denomination is 25 cents, but a collectible coin can be worth more depending on its characteristics. Most ordinary circulated examples remain close to face value, while unusual or exceptionally preserved pieces may command premiums. This difference is one of the first concepts new collectors learn when they begin examining pocket change. The quarter's connection to the early 1980s also makes it a small historical artifact. Coins from this period circulated during a time of significant changes in American society, technology, transportation, and commerce. Every surviving quarter has potentially passed through many hands and places. While the coin does not record the specific people who used it, its worn surfaces can be viewed as evidence of its long journey through the economy. For a complete Washington quarter collection, the 1981 D issue can serve as an important representative of the Denver Mint during the early 1980s. A collector may choose to keep an ordinary example for completeness or search for a superior specimen for a higher quality collection. Some collectors even specialize in building sets containing only certified high-grade coins. Others focus on varieties, errors, tunning, or historical themes. In the end, the 1981 D Washington quarter should be judged on its individual characteristics rather than its date alone. Its large mintage makes ordinary examples common, but exceptional preservation, strong strikes, attractive surfaces, recognized varieties, and genuine mint errors can create additional collector interest. Anyone who finds one should first confirm the D mint mark, examine the condition, inspect the edge and rims, and look carefully for genuine mint-made abnormalities. With proper identification and realistic expectations, this common American quarter can become an enjoyable and educational part of a coin collection. The 1990 D Washington quarter is a United States 25-cent coin struck at the Denver Mint and identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse, located near Washington's hair ribbon. It is part of the classic Washington quarter series that used the traditional George Washington portrait on the front and the American eagle on the reverse. The 1990 D issue was produced in very large numbers, with a reported mintage of 927,638,181 coins, so the date itself is not considered rare. Nevertheless, high-grade examples, attractive uncirculated coins, and genuine mint errors can be much more desirable to collectors. The obverse features the famous left-facing portrait of George Washington, the first President of the United States. Above his portrait is the word Liberty, while In God We Trust appears to the left of Washington's neck. The date 1990 is positioned below the portrait. The small D mint mark appears to the right of Washington's hair ribbon and confirms that this particular quarter was struck at Denver. These design elements make the 1990 D quarter easy to identify when compared with the 1990 P Philadelphia issue and the 1990 S proof issue. The reverse of the 1990 D Washington quarter displays a large American bald eagle with its wings extended. The eagle holds a bundle of arrows, while an olive branch is positioned beneath it. Around the design are the inscriptions United States of America, EPLURIBUS UNUM, and quarter dollar. The phrase EPLURIBUS UNUM is a traditional American motto meaning, out of many, one. The combination of the eagle, arrows, olive branch, and national inscriptions gives the coin its distinctive patriotic appearance. The 1990 D quarter was designed by John Flanagan, whose Washington portrait was used on the quarter for decades. The classic design was introduced in 1932 and continued through the 1990s, before the reverse began changing under the 50-state quarters program in 1999. Because of this, a 1990 D quarter represents one of the later years of the traditional Washington quarter design with the eagle reverse. In terms of physical specifications, the 1990 D Washington quarter has a diameter of approximately 24.3 millimeters and a standard weight of 5.67 grams. It has a reeded edge, meaning that the edge contains numerous small grooves. The coin is made from copper-nickel clad material, with an outer layer of approximately 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a copper core. These specifications are consistent with the circulating Washington quarters produced during this period. The large mintage is one of the most important facts about the 1990 D quarter. With more than 927 million coins produced at Denver, this issue is common in ordinary circulated grades. Another 613,792,000 quarters were produced at Philadelphia, meaning that more than 1.5 billion regular 1990 Washington quarters were produced across the two major circulation mints. Therefore, the 1990 date by itself does not make a quarter rare. Even though the 1990 D quarter is common overall, condition can make a major difference. A heavily circulated coin may have worn details, scratches, contact marks, and loss of original luster. An uncirculated coin, by comparison, can retain its original mint appearance and sharper design details. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters often search through large numbers of common coins to locate examples with exceptionally clean surfaces and strong strikes. One of the most important areas to examine is Washington's cheek and hair. The cheek is a relatively open area and can easily show contact marks from other coins. The hair and surrounding details can also show wear or weakness. On an uncirculated example, collectors look for strong detail, attractive luster, and minimal marks. The fields around Washington's portrait should also be inspected carefully because scratches and abrasions can affect the overall grade. The reverse should receive the same careful examination. Collectors can inspect the eagle's feathers, arrows, olive branch, lettering, and open fields. A strong strike can produce sharper details, while a weaker strike may leave certain areas less defined. Not every weak detail is an error. Variations in striking pressure, die condition, and planchet characteristics can affect the appearance of individual coins. The D mint mark is another important identification feature. It should be located near the hair ribbon on the obverse. A collector should confirm that the letter is actually part of the original coin and not a scratch or other surface mark. Since the mint mark is small, a magnifying glass or clear photograph can be useful when examining a worn example. The 1990 D quarter is also interesting because of the difference between circulated value and high-grade value. NGC's August 2026 guide lists circulated 1990 D quarters at approximately 30 cents to 85 cents, while its guide shows substantially higher values for exceptionally preserved coins, reaching hundreds of dollars at very high grades. NGC's published figures should be viewed as guide values rather than guaranteed selling prices, because actual prices depend on certification, grade, eye appeal, market conditions, and buyer demand. Other market references also show how sharply the value can change at high grades. Numista's current catalog information lists the 1990 D quarter at modest levels through ordinary circulated and lower uncirculated grades, while much higher figures are shown for exceptionally high grades such as MS67 and MS68. These high-grade values demonstrate that the scarcity of a coin in a particular condition can matter more than the enormous original mintage. PCGS price guide information likewise shows that high-grade 1990 D quarters can command substantial premiums. Its Washington quarter price listing shows increasing values as the grade rises, with particularly strong premiums at the upper end of the grading scale. This is why collectors who find a very clean 1990 D quarter sometimes set it aside rather than spending it. The concept of grade rarity is especially important for this coin. Millions of 1990 D quarters were produced, but only a fraction survived in truly exceptional condition. Most coins were placed into circulation, where they quickly accumulated scratches, marks, and wear. Others were stored in bags where coins could strike against each other. As a result, finding an example that qualifies for an extremely high grade can be much harder than the original mintage number suggests. Collectors should also understand the difference between an ordinary mint-made characteristic and a genuine error. The mint produced millions of quarters using high-speed presses, and minor variations can occur naturally. A true error is something that happened during the manufacturing process and resulted in an abnormal coin. Examples can include major off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, struck through errors, and certain die-related abnormalities. A major off-center 1990D quarter, for example, may have the design noticeably shifted away from the center of the planchet. If a substantial portion of the design is missing, while the coin remains otherwise authentic, the piece can become much more interesting to error collectors. However, minor positioning differences or damage around the edge should not automatically be described as valuable errors. A clipped planchet is another type of error that collectors may encounter. It can occur when the metal strip is improperly punched, and part of the planchet is missing before the coin is struck. The resulting coin can have a distinctive curved or straight missing section. However, postment damage can sometimes imitate a clip, so authentication and careful examination are important. A broad strike can occur when a coin is struck without proper containment by the collar. This can cause the coin to spread beyond normal dimensions and alter the shape of the rim. Again, collectors should distinguish true mint-made broad strikes from coins that were flattened or damaged after leaving the mint. The weight of the 1990D quarter can provide additional information when investigating an unusual coin. The normal weight is approximately 5.67 grams. A significant deviation may justify further investigation, particularly if the coin also has unusual physical characteristics. However, a small difference does not automatically prove an error because wear, dirt, environmental effects, manufacturing tolerances, and scale accuracy can all affect measurements. The reeded edge is another feature worth examining. A normal 1990D quarter should have consistent grooves around its edge. If the edge appears unusually smooth, damaged, flattened, or otherwise abnormal, collectors should investigate further. Some edge abnormalities are caused by circulation damage rather than the mint, so the complete coin must be considered before assigning an error designation. Cleaning is another major issue when evaluating an older quarter. A person may think that polishing a dull 1990D quarter will make it more valuable, but cleaning can create scratches and unnatural surfaces. Collectors generally prefer coins with original surfaces and natural mint characteristics. Therefore, if a coin appears unusually nice or potentially valuable, it is better to leave it in its existing condition rather than attempting to improve it with chemicals, polishing materials, or abrasive products. The color of a 1990D quarter can vary because of its copper-nickel-clad construction and its storage history. Circulated coins may appear duller than freshly struck examples. Some coins can develop darker or different colored surfaces as a result of environmental exposure. Such coloration does not automatically mean that the coin is rare. Collectors focus more on originality, preservation, and whether the surfaces show evidence of artificial treatment. The 1990D quarter can also be compared with the 1990P Washington quarter, which had a mintage of 613,792,000. Both were regular circulation strikes with the same basic design and specifications, but the mint mark distinguishes the Denver issue from Philadelphia. The 1990S quarter, with a mintage of 3,299,559, was a proof issue produced at San Francisco and belongs to a different collecting category. The large production of the 1990D quarter makes it an excellent example of the difference between mintage and scarcity. More than 927 million pieces were produced, but collectors do not evaluate all those coins as one identical group. A circulated example may be common, while an extremely high-grade certified example may be difficult to find. The scarcity of coins in specific grades is therefore an important part of modern numismatics. For someone discovering a 1990D quarter in an old collection or coin jar, the first step should be to confirm the date and mint mark. Next, examine whether the coin shows circulation wear. If it appears uncirculated, inspect the surfaces under good lighting. Look especially at Washington's cheek, hair, the open fields, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering. Clean surfaces, strong luster, and sharp details are desirable characteristics. Collectors should also be cautious when viewing online claims about extremely valuable 1990D quarters. A high auction price may refer to an exceptionally graded coin, a certified error, or a special variety. It does not mean that every 1990D quarter with the same date and mint mark has that value. The exact condition and characteristics of the individual coin are essential. Professional grading can be useful for an exceptional example. A grading service can authenticate the coin and assign it a numerical grade based on its preservation. Certification is particularly useful when a coin appears to be in an extremely high grade or has a potentially significant mint error. A certified coin may also be easier for collectors to compare with other professionally graded examples. The 1990D Washington quarter is therefore a fascinating example of late 20th century American coinage. It combines the historic portrait of George Washington with the traditional eagle reverse, the national mottos, the Denver mint mark, and the durable copper-nickel-clad composition. Although its enormous mintage means that ordinary examples are common, exceptional condition and genuine mint errors can create significant collector interest. In conclusion, the 1990D Washington quarter is a 25-cent United States coin struck at the Denver Mint, with a mintage of approximately 927,638,181 pieces. It weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.3 millimeters, has a reeded edge, and uses copper-nickel-clad construction. The obverse features George Washington with Liberty, In God We Trust, the date 1990, and the D mint mark. The reverse features the American Eagle with United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and quarter dollar. Most circulated examples are common and generally have little premium over face value, but high-grade specimens can be considerably more desirable. Current NGC information shows values rising sharply for coins in exceptional grades, while PCGS and other market references likewise demonstrate the importance of condition. For anyone collecting U.S. quarters, the 1990D issue is worth examining carefully. Look for original surfaces, strong luster, sharp details, minimal contact marks, unusual die characteristics, and genuine mint errors. The coin may be common in everyday condition, but a truly exceptional example can tell a very different story. Its large production also makes it a useful reminder that not every old coin is rare, and not every valuable coin needs to have a low mintage. In modern coin collecting, grade, preservation, errors, varieties, certification, and market demand can all play an important role in determining the desirability and potential value of an individual 1990D Washington quarter. The 1990D Washington quarter is an especially useful coin for understanding the difference between a coin being old and a coin being genuinely scarce. Although the quarter is now several decades old, hundreds of millions were originally produced at Denver. Many examples remain available today, particularly in circulated grades. This means that the date and D mint mark alone do not make the coin extremely rare. Instead, collectors need to examine the exact condition and characteristics of the individual specimen. The 1990D quarter was created during the final decade of the original Washington quarter design. Americans were still using the same basic portrait and eagle reverse that had been familiar for generations. The design provided continuity between different periods of American history. A person holding a 1990D quarter would immediately recognize it as the same traditional Washington quarter that had been circulating for many decades. The obverse portrait of Washington is particularly important when studying the condition of the coin. The highest areas of the portrait generally experience the most wear during circulation. Washington's hair, cheek, and other raised areas can gradually lose detail. The surrounding fields may also accumulate scratches and contact marks. When collectors examine an uncirculated example, they look for strong details and original mint luster across these areas. The reverse provides another opportunity to judge the quality of the strike. The eagle's feathers can show different levels of definition, depending on the strength of the strike and condition of the dies. The arrows and olive branch should also be examined. Collectors often compare several examples side by side to identify which coins have the sharpest details and most attractive surfaces. The lettering can provide useful clues as well. The words United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM, and quarter dollar should have normal shapes and spacing. If letters appear doubled, distorted, or unusually formed, the coin may deserve additional investigation. However, many apparent varieties seen by beginning collectors are actually caused by damage, lighting, reflections, or normal die characteristics. The 1990 D quarter is also an interesting example of the importance of mint state preservation. A coin can leave the mint looking bright and attractive, but it can receive marks almost immediately when it is placed with thousands of other coins. Contact between coins during transportation and storage can create small abrasions. These marks can remain visible even when the coin has never been spent. This is why high-grade examples are evaluated so carefully. A collector searching for a premium example should pay attention to the open areas around Washington's portrait. These areas are relatively smooth and make scratches easy to see. A coin with many distracting marks may receive a lower grade than a similarly struck coin with cleaner surfaces. Eye appeal is also important because two coins with similar technical grades can look very different. The original mint luster of a 1990 D quarter can be another attractive feature. Natural luster is created during the striking process and can produce a distinctive glow when the coin is tilted under light. A coin that has been polished may look bright but lack the natural appearance of an untouched mint state coin. Collectors generally prefer originality, especially when considering high-grade pieces. Environmental exposure can also affect the appearance of a quarter. Coins stored in damp or unsuitable conditions may develop spots, discoloration, or surface changes. Other coins can remain bright for decades if stored properly. These differences explain why two 1990 D quarters with the same date and mint mark can look completely different. The copper-nickel clad composition is another reason the coin should not be confused with a silver quarter. Washington quarters dated 1964 and earlier were generally made of 90% silver, but the 1990 D issue is a clad copper-nickel coin. The difference in composition is important when estimating precious metal content. The normal 1990 D quarter should not be valued as a silver coin simply because it is decades old. Collectors interested in errors should learn the basic stages of coin production. A blank piece of metal is prepared, transformed into a planchet, and then struck between dies. The coin passes through various mechanical processes before it reaches circulation. An error can occur at several points during this process. Understanding these stages helps collectors determine whether an unusual feature could realistically have been created at the mint. A struck-through error can occur when a foreign object or material comes between a die and the planchet during striking. The resulting coin can have a missing or distorted portion of the design. Some struck-through errors are minor, while dramatic examples can be highly collectible. However, many surface marks that look unusual are simply damage and should not be automatically described as struck-through errors. Die cracks are another characteristic that collectors sometimes investigate. As dies are used repeatedly, they can develop cracks or other signs of wear. A crack may appear as a raised line on the finished coin because the recessed crack in the die transfers metal into the design. Significant die breaks can become collectible, but minor die deterioration is not necessarily rare. The term die state is also useful for advanced collectors. A die can produce many coins during its useful life, and its appearance can change as it becomes worn. Collectors sometimes study these changes to identify early, middle, and late stages of a die. This type of research can be especially interesting when examining large mintage coins such as the 1990D quarter. The quarter's edge can provide additional information. The standard reeded edge was designed partly as a traditional feature and partly as an identifying characteristic. When examining an unusual coin, collectors should rotate it slowly and inspect the entire edge. A missing section of reeding or an unusual edge shape might deserve investigation, but postment damage must always be considered. The size and weight of the coin can also help confirm its identity. A normal 1990D Washington quarter is approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter and 5.67 grams in weight. Collectors using measurement tools should remember that small variations can result from normal manufacturing tolerances, wear, dirt, or equipment accuracy. A significant difference combined with an unusual appearance is more worthy of investigation than a tiny difference by itself. The 1990D quarter can be particularly appealing to collectors who enjoy building complete Washington quarter datement sets. Such a collection may include Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues from many different years. The goal is not necessarily to own the most expensive coins, but to document the development of the series over time. Another collecting approach is to focus on high-grade examples. A collector may search specifically for coins with strong luster, sharp strikes, clean surfaces, and attractive eye appeal. This can turn an inexpensive common date into a challenging collecting project because finding coins in exceptional condition requires patience and careful examination. Error collecting is another specialized area. Some collectors specifically search rolls and bags of common coins hopping to discover an unusual mint-made error. The 1990D quarter can be included in such searches because of its large production. However, valuable errors are much less common than ordinary damaged coins, so collectors need to learn the differences between genuine errors and postment damage. The market for coins can also change over time. A price recorded at an auction many years ago does not guarantee that the same amount will be paid today. Collector demand, population reports, economic conditions, certification, grade, and eye appeal can all influence market prices. This is why a single historical auction result should not be used as a universal valuation for every example. The same principle applies to online coin value charts. Price guides can provide useful reference points, but they should not be treated as guaranteed offers. The actual value of an individual 1990D quarter depends on what buyers are willing to pay for that exact coin at that particular time. A professionally graded coin with exceptional eye appeal may perform differently from another coin carrying the same numerical grade. The 1990D Washington quarter also has educational value because it allows beginners to practice identifying important coin characteristics without handling an extremely expensive rarity. Beginners can learn how to use a magnifying glass, identify the mint mark, examine surfaces, measure weight and diameter, and recognize normal circulation wear. These skills can later be applied to more valuable coins. When storing a potentially valuable quarter, unnecessary handling should be avoided. Holding the coin by its edge can help prevent fingerprints from appearing on the main surfaces. A suitable non-damaging holder can protect the coin from scratches and environmental exposure. Coins should also be kept away from harsh chemicals and materials that can react with metal surfaces. A collector should never assume that cleaning is necessary simply because a quarter looks dark or dirty. Natural surfaces can contain tunning or discoloration that developed over many years. Aggressive cleaning can create permanent scratches and reduce collector appeal. If a coin appears potentially valuable, preserving its existing surfaces is generally safer than trying to make it look newer. The 1990D quarter is also a reminder that everyday money can contain history. This coin circulated during a period before many of today's modern technologies became widespread. It may have passed through stores, banks, vending machines, and countless hands. Although the individual history of a particular coin cannot normally be reconstructed, its worn condition can demonstrate how heavily it was used. For a collector, the most exciting discovery would be an unusually well-preserved 1990D quarter, a clearly identifiable major mint error, or a recognized variety. Such a coin should be separated from ordinary change and examined carefully. Clear photographs, accurate measurements, and comparison with trusted references can help determine whether further professional evaluation is worthwhile. Overall, the 1990D Washington quarter is a common but highly educational coin. Its huge mintage means that most examples are not rare, yet its high-grade population and possible mint errors provide opportunities for collectors. The coin demonstrates an important principle of numismatics. Rarity is often about the exact condition and characteristics of a coin, not simply its date. The 1990D quarter remains an appealing part of the classic Washington quarter series. Its George Washington portrait, American Eagle reverse, traditional inscriptions, Denver Mint mark, clad composition, and place in late 20th century American history make it a useful addition to many collections. Whether the coin is found in an old collection or ordinary pocket change, careful examination can reveal much more than its 25-cent face value suggests.